Wow. Oh, come on. Gee. Good morning. Sawadi Kap. Good evening. Welcome to Sunday Night Live. It is Sunday night, isn't it? Over there. Yep. It always seems like such a ordeal to get this thing going, but it's done now. Actually, someone tried to help me put this on Zoom so that I could share the screen and stuff like that, but didn't work. Anyway, so here we are, and let's try to get through some questions today. Okay, so Sunday Night Live here in, in the dark side of the world, and the light side of the world over here, and I mean only in terms of sunlight and lack of it. When I say that, so don't take it any other way. So over here it's morning. So did you all see that movie? What was the movie with Robin Williams when he said "Good morning, Vietnam"? I used to love that. I loved when he said that. That was cool. Anyway, so I've been talking about it for a long time, and I'm sure you're saying, "Oh, come on now, stop talking about it and just start it." I agree. We should start these groups, and I don't know what is taking so long, because I think we just get started and watch them happen. But anyway, we're almost there. So remember, go to drlodi.com, drlodi.com, inner circle, sign up, and we'll do this thing, health and healing group, which is going to talk about everything. And there's so many things I want to talk about in that group. So many things. I mean, just so many things. So it's going to be fantastic. And then we have the Parasite guidance group and the CFC guidance group, for those people who don't know. The acronym CFC, which I hate acronyms, but however, in this case, I guess we should just say chronically fermenting cells. Chronically fermenting, successfully fermenting cells. CFC, SFCs. Yeah, anyway. So it'll be 3 different groups. And as you know, if you're in the Parasite group, you all also are automatically in the health and healing group. And if you're in the CFC group, you're also in the other 2 groups. So, and there'll be, ways for us to communicate in real time on Telegram or Signal or something. I think we should use Signal. I think Telegram is compromised. What do you know what it turns out? Everything's compromised. Everything. Your refrigerator, unless it's an old-fashioned one, everything. So we are compromised. But let's not get into that. We have to live with it every day. That's enough, right? No sense talking about it right now. Hi there, everybody. And remember there used to be something called the indigo children. I forget when that term came up, but it came up in I guess 30, 20 calendars and clocks. I can't relate to them. Anyway, fibroadenoma. Is there need to be concerned about fibroadenoma? No, we'll take care of the fibroadenoma. You just need iodine, and let me talk about that in a moment. That's a good question. But no, I mean nothing to be worried about. But anyway, there used to be indigo children, and those indigo children were considered children who were like, they were born and they were like, like smart or talented or both or everything like that. I think there must be a new, I guess the indigo children have had children now, or whatever of us. And now we're having these, I don't know what we're going to call them, majestic children. Anyway, I certainly met one. Well, I didn't meet her. I've just seen her. She sends me little videos, and she's well, when a child is born, when they're first born, they just drop out of heaven, and here they are, right out of heaven. Look around; they actually know everything. They know everything because it's clear; it's right in front of them, and they have no prejudice, no agenda, nothing, and they're just seeing everything as it is. Right? And then they got to deal with their body, so they cry sometimes like that. But they're not crying because of what is. Anyway, they're blown away. And then we give them something called language, which confines their knowing, their awareness into knowing, and they become like us. So, but anyway, I met this amazing little girl, and I want to say hi to Naledi. Hi out there. I know you're there. I hope you're there, and your mom, Nicole. Um, but I'm glad. Yeah, amazing little girl, and blessed, born to conscious parents. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having parents who actually are no? I can't imagine it. I wasn't. I had tons of love, but I didn't. She didn't know. They didn't know. Um, know what? What are you talking about, Lodi? Oh yeah, what am I talking about? Know that what is food? How important is it for us to be connected to nature? What are the goals in life? Things like that. Which most people don't know. We still don't know. Most people don't know. Anyway, so again, and I apologize 1,000 times for not doing any more consultations privately. I just can't because I got these two centers. I go, one in the U.S. and one here happening soon, and I just can't. I just can't. But I can if you go through those centers. You're going to come there. Of course, then we consult them because that's we talk and all that. But these groups, I'm hoping these groups will be able to do, like especially with the CFC group, is we'll talk about your particular situation and we can look at it like a almost like a group consultation without violating anything like HIPAA, whatever it's called, HIPAA. There are all these really strict rules like HIPAA, and is Zoom HIPAA compliant? Well, you see, you have to keep in mind that all of this protection of your privacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is only relative to what? You and me. We can't talk about each other. But of course, we know that the two entities that Meta administrates, Facebook and Instagram, and we know that YouTube, and we know that Google, I mean CIA, let's call it what it is, and then what else? We know all of these things they have access to everything. Everything. Smart TVs watching you. If you got a smart TV in your bedroom, it's watching you, not just through the camera, right through the screen. So anyway, so all of these HIPAA rules and all this stuff for privacy is only applies to. It's like a show to keep us thinking that we're like being protected or some other thing, something like that. We're being protected. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so in these groups, let's talk. I mean, let's talk about your stories and see what we can do and all that. And remember, we're going to be having a chat all week long because we'll be on Signal, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Um, anyway, so maybe on those things we won't talk about private issues. But I think in our group we got to trust each other and just say, you don't have to use your real name either. You can use a caricature for your icon, and then make your name as you know, uh, uh whatever, uh, Andrew Polk, hmm, yeah, or Betsy Ross. So, anyway, if you've got a CFC problem right now, and please go, call on Oasis of Healing in the U.S. Uh, and you can call them, or you can just go to the website anoasisofhealing.com. An easier way to get to that website, so you don't have to write anything down, is just remember stopmakingcancer.com, and then it'll redirect you. Or you can contact Oasis Healing Asia out here in Asia. Yeah, because it's time to. If it's time to, we're not open yet here over here though. So anyway, so we're gonna get those groups going, and also please remember it's TikTok, TikTok. I'm surprised that TikTok still has me on, because I am extremely controversial. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I've talked about such bizarre, such controversial things as what do you call what? Uh um Propolis. Can you imagine talking about propolis on air to people? I mean, I don't know what got into me that day. And then I even talked about parasites. Can you imagine that? Well, anyway, so I'm about to be sanctioned forever. It's called banned. And tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I'm not sure when, but tick tock, tick tock. Because they're going to go back and find something I said in 22 or 23 and ban it. He was talking about what? The benefits of going to sleep early. Whoa, whoa! You think that would bother anybody? Maybe not. Maybe most people could deal with that one. Um, no. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because are we actually in here? Yeah, we are. What's the difference between fenbendazole and mebendazole? Well, the way you spell it. No, of course, the way you spell them. But they're both benzimidazoles, which are a group of compounds that do basically the same thing. Their fundamental thing is to stop these microtubules from moving, right? So if they don't move, the cell doesn't have a skeleton. It can't divide. It dies. So that's basically what all the benzimidazoles do, and that's how they kill the parasites. However, they also do 1,000 other things like turn off all the different pathways that CFCs need. Um, and now the only the difference I have found that I can find is that the mebendazole has been, well, at least there's studies that show that it actually kills the CFC stem cells, whereas I haven't found that with fembendazole. I'm not saying it doesn't, and I don't know that it doesn't, but what? I posted pictures on your Facebook page of what so many are suffering with, including me, and the protocols are not killing it, and people are in hell. Many are on the waiting list of your parasite group. Okay, yeah, okay. So, Amy, hang in there. What can I say? One thing I can say is that I'm not sure what you're taking, but you've got to take a lot of the antihelminthics and a lot of and at least then maybe two of the antiprotozoals, nitazoxanide and tinidazole, and then you'll take ivermectin, mebendazole, and fembendazole, niclosamide, and praziquantel. You just and then we're gonna do an antifungal, fluconazole, or and maybe nystatin. Do them all 3 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on. It takes a while to get these guys. Okay. Now, on the other hand, There are other kinds of parasites too. I'm not sure what you have, but there's like for example, there is a South America. I think there's some even in the United States now, Southeast Asia. There are these flies called bot flies, and they when they land on you, they lay eggs, and those eggs get into your skin, and the little larvae crawl around, and it's like becomes the definition of disgusting and ew. I mean, so in a sense, we call those ectoparasites as opposed to endoparasites. But yeah, those are real too. There's all kinds of stuff. But the other thing too is that because we are being um, oh, by the way, everyone knows we're at war, right? You know we're at war. Okay, the war has begun. I mean, it has begun. So, um, and so, what do you do? What would be a good strategy if you were at war? Cut off the food supply. Cut off the food supply and what? Oh, and fuel supply to begin with. Well, they don't have to do that because actually nature's doing it with the bird flu. The bird flu is making it so dangerous that I think the farmers should not even go to outside of their barns, and they shouldn't bring any food. We should lock down the farmers. Anyway, um, interesting questions, you guys. You guys ask great. I can't wait till we can just do this, like a live questions. But there's some that I just can't resist here. So you mentioned this is from Stanley. You mentioned on an earlier YouTube video that you take over 120 milligrams melatonin daily, and everyone should take 20 daily. Why do most medical experts recommend daily melatonin allowances of no more than 10 milligrams? Well, first of all, let's try to understand what qualifies these people as being experts. For example, how about a really like top-notch neurosurgeon, right? Really one of the best neurosurgeons. And your baby's about to come out, right? You're 9 months plus, the baby's coming out. You think he's going to be able to, or she's going to be able to deliver that baby real well? Probably not. So just because you have an MD or whatever DO or an MD or whatever training you've had doesn't mean you know all the areas. So since melatonin is a product of the pineal gland, and it's basically a neurotransmitter that also is an immune modulator. And also, since our pineal glands are being systematically damaged through fluoride, because fluoride, as you know, is a halogen which forms salts with transition metals, just like chloride does, and fluoride and bromide, right? So you've got sodium chloride, sodium fluoride, sodium bromide, calcium fluoride, calcium iodide, magnesium fluoride, magnesium, fluoride, magnesium, chloride. Anyway, you've got all these different salts. So anyway, you get a lot of iodine going up into that pineal, and it grabs calcium. You wind up with calcium iodide, and that forms you get calcification of the pineal gland, which is not really cool because you have to produce something called epithalamin, and you have to also produce a dimethyltryptamine, as well as melatonin. And these are all responsible. They're so beyond important. So, and melatonin, by the way, is I think the two fundamental reasons, main reasons, contributing at least 95% to the immunological decline, immunosenescence that they call it, of people as they get older, is first of all, thymic, the thymus gland. So thymic involution, right? Number one, and number two is melatonin loss of decreased melatonin. So anyway, and I don't know, maybe these other experts don't really read and find out that blind women have what is it, 1/3 the amount of breast CFCs as women who can see. And when they looked at everything, they matched them for parity. You know, the number of children they've had. They've matched them for age, ethnicity, all the other ways they could match them to see what was what. And it was melatonin because they're always in the dark. Why does that matter? Because tryptophan becomes serotonin through an enzymatic process. And we make serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, and we call it a hormone also. And however, when the lights go down below a certain luminosity, there's another enzyme that kicks on that takes that one step further to melatonin. So since people that cannot see are always in the dark, they're making lots of melatonin. That's just, I mean, so I'm afraid these medical experts don't realize that. And all you got to do is put melatonin. Go to PubMed, put melatonin and immune system or immunity. You'd be blown away. You're gonna, if you read all those papers, you're gonna say, yeah, I want to have. What I'm trying to get is a compounding pharmacy to make us patches that we can wear patches, so throughout the day you can get just small amounts, so you're not sleepy. Yeah. Anyway, I got to stop reading you guys stuff. I'll try a little bit. Yeah, invite someone to join live as a guest. I don't know I don't know what that means. Oh, so someone's asking, what is a CFC? Okay, so this is Ziva. Okay, so Ziva, you don't know. Anyway, what they call cancer, which is it has no meaning. Okay, zodiac sign, nothing, no other meaning. However, what actually happens is cells lose their ability to use oxygen because they're inundated with toxins, and they start to ferment in order to make energy, because if they don't make energy, they can't exist. So then they make some changes in their they turn off this enzyme, turn on that one, things that they make changes in their function so that they can support this new fermenting metabolism, which is much less efficient than the other way. And once it succeeds in modifying its genetic expression, it becomes a chronically fermenting cell. And so when I use that word, and when we use that word, two things. Number one, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about something that, okay, it's a fermenting cell. Okay. And it's kind of set up to do that permanently. All right. Why? How did it get that way? Now I can figure that out. Now I can develop a strategy to resolve it. And when I hear CFCs or chronically fermenting cells, it just doesn't hurt emotionally. On the other hand, you hear the word cancer. What do you learn? Nothing, except this monster that's going to. That's all you hear. There's no information. You can't like do something with the information. And it gives you fear. How much fear? Well, a fear enough to make you agree to do things that you wouldn't do normally. Standard of scare. All right. So I hope you understand, Ziva. That's very good. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. So I take a lot of melatonin as well. So where are we? Let's get to some questions, you guys, because is this it? No. No. Hey. There we go. I'm not. That's last week. How did that get up there? What? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I know it's in here. Hey, okay, we got that, and then we got to get the questions. Come on, you guys. Where's the questions? Questions. I just had it. Is that it? Yes, Mike. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So cool. I love it when things work. Okay. So now, okay, so you got that, all right? And then remember we're on X at Dr. Thomas Lodi, MD. MD. All the rest are Dr. Thomas Lodi, Dr. Thomas Lodi. There's no MD at the end. So, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, uh, LinkedIn, all those. Okay. So you all know that. All right. I just have to say it every week. All right. And then again, remember, these are, and the replays are on the podcast and on my website, and then drlodi.com. And also Instagram and Facebook for now have stored them all. TikTok, TikTok, it doesn't do that. And Anyway, so before we get to the questions this week, I don't know if you remember, but last week I had promised that I would do this, answer this one question from Anouk. Okay, because I saw that it was a long question and that he had. I'm assuming it's a he. It's Anouk, but I don't know if it's a male or female. But yeah, there we go. Okay. Anyway, let's answer this question first. Okay, it's because there's a lot of stuff in it. I read it after our session last week. So anyway, the question is, could Dr. Lodi check this post? So confusing. Dr. Lodi says to eat vegetables, and this doctor here below says not to eat vegetables since they are high in carbs. Dr. Jockers, top 13 cancer stem cell killing supplements given below, which is almost identical to my before every meal list. Almost all of the 12 suggested supplements are plant and fruit-based polyphenols and flavonoids, which begs the question, should you be eating a plant-based diet to fight active cancers? The real question, if following a plant-based diet while actively fighting cancer, is the real question is, can you ingest enough polyphenols, most of which are insoluble, from the plant-based diet to counteract or negate the negative effects of the carbohydrate content of the plant-based diet? That's what you're saying the real question is. So the real question you're saying is that how much you have to eat to get the adequate amount of polyphenols and flavonoids to counteract all the carbs, right? That's what you're asking. On your answer, the answer to that question is absolutely no. Because as a plant-based diet is essentially 100% carbohydrate diet. That's a scary diet to follow if actively fighting cancer. If actively fighting cancer, stay away from all carbohydrates, glucose, regardless of the source, for many months, meaning avoid all plants and fruits, but continue to supplement with polyphenols and flavonoids. I would certainly add low glucose carbohydrate plants into your diet as a longevity diet once NED. Again, Anouk, let me just say here before I go on, you've got to stop using, you're so enmeshed in their world, using their language. It's like being in quicksand. You're not going to get out. There's no evidence of disease means absolutely nothing. What does NED mean? Think about it, Anouk and everybody. NED means, and they use that, right? It's an acronym. No evidence of disease. First of all, what is a disease? I don't know. You figure it out. Tell me. Okay. No evidence of disease. What they're saying is that right now, when we do a scan, a PET scan, a CT scan, an MRI, whatever we do, we don't see any tumors. What does that mean? Well, that's what happens right after surgery, after a lumpectomy. That's what happens right after a bunch of high dose chemotherapy. Okay, that's what happened. You got NED. Does that mean anything? No. Why does it not mean anything? Because it's going to be back. I promise it'll be back. A rare cases of surgery, you can cut it out and it's gone. Rare, rare, rare. I would certainly add low glucose carbohydrates to the longevity. Once NED, with the emphasis always being bring glucose to zero. A plant-based diet to fight active cancer is a diet that is almost 100% carbohydrate-based, meaning glucose-based, which fuels cancer growth, and your body never enters into a state of ketosis or hormesis. Hormesis, which is a phenomenon in which a harmful substance gives stimulating and beneficial effects to living organisms when the quantity of the harmful substance is small, promotes healing and longevity. Examples of hormesis is the carnivore diet, since it eliminates all glucose, carbs, hot, cold baths, limited meals, or food, water, fast center. What should you do if actively fighting cancer? Limit glucose to zero, meaning carnivore, for 2 to 3 months, and take most, if not all, of Dr. Jocker's suggested supplement list before all meals, as almost all of the suggested supplements inhibit glucose and glutamine. Remember, if you take away both glucose and glutamine, I don't know of any tumor cell, none that we have ever found, that can survive without their two key fermentable fuels. This was by Professor Thomas Seyfried. Dr. Jocker's top 12 cancer stem cell killing supplements. Okay, so ursolic acid, which inhibits which is a glutamine inhibitor, piperine, black pepper, which kills both cancer cells and increases lycopene from tomato, isothiocyanates and sulforaphanes from cruciferous vegetables, curcumin, ECGC. Right, okay, these are all the stuff he's saying. Vitamin D3 is vital for mitochondrial support. Yeah, silymarin. Yeah. Anthocyanins. Okay, so Anouk, I'm going to take what you just wrote and I'm going to look at each part of it, okay? Because it applies to everybody. I hope you're all listening and pay attention to this, because he brought up a lot of, or she, Anouk, I'm not sure if you're a man or woman, but my apologies. And listen, I kind of stopped there because I'm totally old school. You're either a man or a woman. You could be a transphenol. In other words, you could have had something done to your body to try to change it. But if I did a swab of your cheek and I looked at it with a special kind of equipment, I would see it would either be XX or XY. I promise you. In fact, I would bet all the money that BlackRock and Vanguard have on that, if I could bet it. that I could not, whatever I tried to do, change your gender. I could change your phenotype. Anyway, sorry. Can't resist that stuff. I don't know how to not talk about it. Anyway, so you brought up some points that are probably what most people think about, but we're afraid to ask. No. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the nutrient value of plants. Okay. Now you're saying, or he, Dr. whatever his name is saying that it is 100% glucose or carbohydrates. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say, except that's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. Beyond ridiculous. Okay. What are the 3 macronutrients that we need for our body to be rebuilt and to restored and to keep? Remember, we're losing and making 37 million new cells per second. So we kind of need stuff. We need the parts to put it together. So those are called the macronutrients, right? And then the micronutrients are the stuff that help make that stuff work, right? The vitamins, the phytonutrients, and the minerals. All right. So where do we get? What are the stuff? So there's protein, there is carbohydrates, and fats. Those are the 3 macronutrients. Now, what is a protein? It is a string of 100 or more amino acids. What is an amino acid? An amino acid is a nitrogen group stuck on to a carboxylic acid group. And in the middle, there's another carbon that can, and you can have multiple. And how many amino acids are there? All in biology, there's 20. 20 amino acids, okay? Now, amino acids, because nitrogen on a carboxylic acid, you don't need to know what they mean. And I'm not being technical. I'm just giving you the word. There's no other word for nitrogen other than nitrogen. And there's no other word for carboxylic acid other than carboxylic acid. And it doesn't matter what it means. All it means is that that's what it is, okay? It's called an amino acid. And the only way that nitrogen can get onto a carboxylic acid is through microorganisms. And that they're on plants. Not microorganisms in us or on animals, but on plants. And because why? The atmosphere, the air we breathe is 78% nitrogen. And so that nitrogen is extracted from the air and it's chemically connected to a carboxylic acid with a carbon intervening. And then there'll be other ones as well. And then R groups and blah, blah. And yeah, so that's how that happens. That's what an amino acid is, okay? So 100 or more is a protein. So now, of the 20 amino acids that exist, plants make all 20, of course. Animals make only a portion of them because they need a certain amount that they have to obtain in their diet. And then once they've obtained those, they can use that to produce the others. So the ones that they need to obtain through diet are called essential amino acids. And the ones they don't need to obtain because they can make it are called non-essential amino acids. So for us, there are 9 essential amino acids and we make the other 11. All right? So far, pretty simple, right? Okay. It will always be simple because the truth is always simple. Underneath, the reality of what's going on underneath is of a complexity that is incomprehensible to any being except God. And please, I don't know, we're not going to get into it again. We're not going to get into theology or whatever. But I just want you to understand that when I say God, I don't mean a guy, a man with the genitals. I don't mean he, and I don't mean a she, and I don't use the word it because that's very not nice. And so it's hard to talk about God. But anyway, and God's not a thing that's over there and we're over here. And he, Okay. So God to me is the fabric of existence, the intelligence that all things are. And believe me, everything's pretty intelligent, except humans. We're stupid. And by the way, we think animals are stupid. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? We think animals are we think we're intelligent, and animals are stupid. And if you look at animals, they never uh, uh, do to their environment that what we do. They wouldn't. They don't. They function under something called instinct. And instinct, as we all know, is from God. And it's the divine web by which all creatures are connected to God, to the intelligence, to the wisdom of God. And it's how all creatures know exactly what to do, right? And know exactly what to do. Do you think a cat has to learn how to clean its? It doesn't. They don't learn that. Do they learn how? Does a spider learn how to spin a web, or does a bird learn how to fly in a flock perfectly? No, no. They do things that are incredible by instinct, meaning they're in direct contact all the time with the divine intelligence that is the universe. We are not. We're separated from it with our minds, thinking we know something, and as a result, we got to learn it. We have to learn it. We have to go to flight school. We have to go to engineering school. Anyway, so okay. Anyway, there's 9 essential amino acids that we must eat. If we get those, we'll make all the other ones. Okay. So therefore, if something I'm eating has all 9 of the essentials, then it's called in modern vernacular a complete protein. Now, what are the complete proteins in? Because you remember you said that plants are 100% carbohydrate. It turns out they're not at all, at all, not even at all. I mean, the closest you can come to is a potato, which has got a ton of carbohydrate, but it still has protein. It still is actually a complete protein. It has all 9 essential amino acids. A potato. Anyway, so the ones are spinach, kale, the collard greens, right? I don't know if you know what collard greens are. Potatoes, taro. If you don't know what taro is, if you've been to Hawaii, taro is like a root they use, kind of like their staple. Corn is a complete protein, and quinoa, soybeans, and then how about the seeds? Chia and hemp and sunflower seeds are complete proteins, meaning you'll get all your protein needs met by that. Once again, you'll get all of your protein needs met by then. All right. So now, what else is in these things? Well, let's just take for example spinach. All right, and I like spinach because one of my heroes when I was growing up was Popeye. You know, um, I mean, I just kind of liked him for some reason. Anyway, I didn't like his elbows, but I liked him. Anyway, so what does spinach have? Well, it's got all all really important minerals like iron and manganese and magnesium, potassium, calcium. It's even got vitamin D. Can you imagine? It's got vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin K to keep our blood clotting. And then, of course, it's got all 3 macronutrients. Very little fat. Very little fat. All right. So, and it's got fiber. Now, why is fiber important? Fiber is important because it is, you see, we have a long digestive tract. Our digestive tract is 30 feet or 10 meters. Okay. Whereas you look at a dog and a cat, they have short and straight. Okay. So in that long digestive tract, the way to keep it clean is you would, you'd go in there like, a couple times a day with a broom and sweep things out, right? Sweep, mop up, right? Well, that's what the fiber does. Fiber is undigestible, right? In other words, we cannot digest it. Therefore, it's all stringy and it goes through, and as it comes through the intestines, it's wiping and cleaning. Very, very, very important. It adds bulk to the stool so that you can have good, well-formed bowel movements and not develop hemorrhoids. Yeah, things like that. Okay, so now here's a breakdown of for 3.5 ounces, which is 100 grams of raw spinach. Okay, water 91%, protein 2.9 grams, carbs 3.6 grams. However, carbs have to be looked at as there's fiber and the non-fiber. Okay, because the fiber, remember, cannot be digested, cannot be used, but it is a carbohydrate. Why is it a carbohydrate? Because fiber is basically the glucose molecules connected to each other through alpha bonds. Whereas starch, which we form as glycogen in our bodies, plants form it as starch, are alpha bonds. Maybe I got the alpha and beta mixed up. Whatever, I can't remember what. But whatever it is, we have, alpha. Alpha is starch. So we have the enzyme that can break those bonds down and release the glucose, and we get the glucose for the energy, for the fuel, and for the biosynthesis later. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's what we get. All right. Now, the cellulose, which makes up plants, trees, and all that sort of thing, has got the same thing, glucose molecules strung together, but the beta bonds, and we don't have that enzyme. So we can't break it down. Who does? Little microorganisms, they break it down. And when they break down stuff, one of the byproducts they produce is gas. When I eat the food like that, I get really gassy. Well, yeah, okay. So, anyway, so the carbs are 3.6 grams, but of them, only 0.4 grams are considered sugars. The rest is fiber. Of the carbs, 3.6 grams, only 0.4 are sugar. And what do we mean by sugar? We're talking about monosaccharides. We're talking about galactose, glucose, and fructose. Those are the three monosaccharides. And they all eventually go, mostly are turned into glucose anyway. All right. And that's energy. Now, glucose is bad? No. I'll talk about that in a minute, too. But the fat, like 0.4 grams of all that. So it's really, and it's a low calorie if you're interested in low calories, which someday we'll talk about calories means absolutely nothing. Calories, there's only 23 calories in 100 grams of raw spinach. Lots of cellulose, what do you call it? Fiber. It's pretty good. Lots of protein. In fact, do you know, per calorie, the amount of protein, which is amino acids in spinach, is 49%, which is about the same as rat's milk. And why would I bring that up? Well, because rat's milk has the highest amount of protein of all the milks. Human milk has 5% of its calories as protein. Horses like 11%. And cows, 13-15%. Yeah. Dogs, wolves, hyenas, 32%. Lions, tigers, panthers, and the house cat, 38%. It turns out that the amount of protein in the milk correlates with the doubling time, the amount of time it takes that creature to double in size and weight so that it can leave the nest. Yeah. That's what it's talking about. So rats, 49% protein, they're gone in 4 days. 4 days, get them out. Get them out there and working in the gutters, okay? Because there's a lot of, have you ever been to New York City or Chicago or I'm going to say probably any city. Wherever there's humans, there are going to be rats. And why do you think we do so many studies on rats? This is really bizarre. They have very similar, interesting, even though they're way far away from us phylogenetically, um, they are very similar, like digestion and stuff. It's crazy. Um, um, and our digestive tract, uh, although it's kind of uh, well, somewhere between a bovine and a great ape, but neither, somewhere in between. Anyway, okay, so most of the carbs in spinach come from fiber. Okay, you got that? Okay, let's take another one. Let's take another really popular one called tomatoes. Now, tomatoes, you're going to like this. It's 73% carbohydrates, only 18% protein and 9% fat. But 95% of a tomato is water. But you know what else it has? And by the way, those carbs are there's the net carbs. In other words, the amount of sugar is less because there is a lot of fiber in tomatoes as well. However, they do have the glucose and the fructose and galactose maybe. But what else does it have? It has the carotenoids, right, which are the vitamin A's. Like you know them, beta carotene, alpha carotene, lycopene. You heard of those things? Very, very important. Lycopene's why tomatoes are red. It's got phenolic compounds. It's got the flavonoids, like camphorol, right? And especially in the skin and the seeds. So when you eat these things, eat the skin and the seeds. Eat them the way you would eat them. Pretend like you are natural. And you're not sitting there with your knife and your fork and eating very properly. No, eat, 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 eat. This is a really holy, special time. It's you and the earth. I mean, you realize that it's your mother earth feeding you, right? It's a very thing, and so like conscious eating is being conscious while you eat, being conscious of what you're eating and the experience and the taste. And when I was invited to Denmark to do a talk on I think fasting. Yeah, way back. It was way back, early 2000s. Anyway, I went up there, and the group that invited me was fantastic, amazing, amazing, right? We all stayed at a house that they had rented. I guess outside of main Copenhagen, outside of it. It's kind of like, I guess, suburbs. And so when the food was delivered, it was a box of cucumbers, a box of tomatoes, a box of like kale. Anyway, but different plants. And then we all got one big jar of our own fermented sauerkraut of some sort. And so when we ate, we'd eat whatever, an avocado, we got avocado. We just eat the food the way it was, rinse it off. But it was like, wow, it was fantastic. I loved it. I loved it. Just eating the food. And my hero of all heroes, well, not number one, but he's pretty close up there, is Herbert M. Shelton. And oh, I verified how good. Do not eat the nightshade skins. It's full of lectins. Okay, we'll talk about lectins sometimes because not all lectins cause problems. Not all. In fact, we need certain lectins, and so that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. Um, the heck was I saying? I had to fix. I'm sorry. I had to fix that thing on TikTok. You know where they give me a jigsaw puzzle and they choose. I don't know. It's just jumping through hoops. It reminds me of like TSA. You know, why do you go through TSA? Not because you know. I mean, I guess one of the reasons is to get rid of like toothpaste and water and stuff, but there's no other reason. It's just to make sure that we learn how to be good. How do you do a cow? Well, they want us to be good cattle, so it's cattle training. Going through TSA is cattle training. Yeah, and I've noticed something about TSA agents. I think there is a they haven't changed over the years since it first came into effect after the one of the other great hoaxes of the last century. Well, the great one of the probably the greatest hoax of the last century, not the greatest. There were several, but that what was the 9/11 thing, right? Anyway, after that, then we got Homeland Security, we got Department of Homeland Security, TSA. Anyway, I think there's a weight requirement on the of to get hired for TSA. Not sure, just an observation. So anyway, so it's got again the tomatoes have um, the right. So we're talking about eating the skin and the seeds. Yeah, I know. Anyway, the monkeys do it. The apes do it. Oh, they're okay. They're okay. They're okay. They're okay, and they've been okay for a long time. So anyway, then there's the glycoalkaloids that that they have, um, which are like almost like steroids. They're almost like uh, they're like steroids, but they're chemically they're different, little different. Like they have glycosidic bonds and stuff, but yeah, they're a little different. But they're anti CFCs and anti-inflammatory. Yeah, very important. And then there are the real sterols that again have both the same kinds of properties: anti-CFC and anti-inflammatory. Really important. And then it's also got bioactive antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and anti-mutagenic and anti-atherogenic. Doesn't make atherosclerotic. Blocks the production of plaques in your artery. So anyway, now the other thing that plants have for everyone to understand when we're talking about food is that it's never even there are only very few plants that have more than 50% uh, of their macronutrients are carbs. I mean, most of them are 20 to 30%. Okay, but they have polyphenols, like for example, spinach. Spinach has the phenolic acids like quercetin and camphorol, right? Onions also have phenolic acids, quercetin and camphorol. The same potatoes even have the phenolic acids. Black and green olives have phenolic acids. Artichokes have them. Broccoli has flavonoids and phenolic acids and indoles. Asparagus has flavonoids and saponins and phenolic acids. Carrots contain flavonoids, phenolic acids, and carotenoids. So, and it actually the polyphenol content in milligrams per 100 gram, milligrams per 100 gram of certain vegetables is pretty impressive. So spinach is anywhere from 80 to 270 milligrams per 100 grams of the quercetin and camphorol, right? The onions, 60 to 100 milligrams for every 100 grams. Potatoes, 20 to 90 for every 100. Okay, broccoli 40 to 130 per every 100. Asparagus 30 to 225 per 100. So, I mean, that's quite significant. All right. So you've heard me talk about camphor, and they all seem to have it, including the cruciferous vegetables, right? So camphor, basically, it's a polyphenol, phenolic acid. It's got anti-inflammatory, anti-CFCs, because what? It inhibits CFC growth, it inhibits angiogenesis, and it induces cells to commit suicide. Protects the heart, slows down high blood pressure, protects the nerves, neuroprotective, so Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, modulates the immune system positively. So, and as I said, you can find that in most plants, fruits, vegetables, and medicinal herbs. And it's really, really, really highly abundant in the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and bok choy and cabbage, etc. Yeah. Okay. And then the quercetin you heard me mention quercetin. Quercetin we use IV because, quercetin is almost as powerful, if maybe in some ways more. They balance out, but as curcumin, unbelievable. And quercetin's been tested with lung, CFCs, colon, prostate, breast, ovarian. Yes, and fantastic. Turns it off. All right. Again, neuroprotective and modulates the immune system. But the anti-inflammatory process, because remember, all CFCs and all chronic degenerative conditions, the underlying adaptive physiological response is inflammation. Inflammation is mediated by multiple things, but probably one of the most central chemicals is something called nuclear factor beta, NFK beta, NFKB. It blocks it directly. So does curcumin. So does vitamin C. Blocks it directly. And quercetin is even athletes have used it for both enhancing performance and recovery. So it's great. Okay. So now I just wanted to let you know that it's not all carbohydrates. Okay, the plant food, right? It's got all sorts of things in it that if you have if you're eating. Oh, by the way, that you're not eating a carnivore diet, please, you have to get your terms straight. All right. Excuse me. What was your name again? Your name was Anouk. You use the thing NED, which means absolutely nothing. It just means they can't see it now. They gave it a good haircut. That's all it means. It's not gone. Doesn't mean anything. It's not helpful. They say don't use it. Don't use it because it's meaningless. Because they didn't work. They didn't talk about the CFC stem cells or anything like that. Okay, so now then you use the word hormesis. Okay, and you applied it to eating a carnivore diet. Well, a carnivore diet is, you understand? Do you know what a carnivore is? Okay, a carnivore is like a cat. The only obligate carnivores of the mammals is the cat. Obligate, must eat it. And they have and carnivores won't eat the corpse. Unless it's like they're dying, starving, they will. But normally they're going to eat a live animal. In zoos they will, because they've been perverted in zoos. But a carnivore eats live animals. So I don't know of any humans on carnivore diets, and neither do you. Nobody. You understand? So what you really meant to say is a corpse diet. All right. So you're going to compare. You're thinking that someone should be eating corpses and taking supplements. What are you going to miss out on? Besides a trillion things, one really important thing is the fiber. And if you don't have good fiber, you're not going to clean out the colon. You're not going to have good bowel movement. You're going to retain poisons, et cetera, et cetera. That's just one thing. But there's so much more. You're not going to get. Anyway, so you're using the word hormesis. Now, what is hormesis? Hormesis is used in the field of toxicology. And basically it refers to a biphasic response, right? So a little bit of something allows that a little bit of a noxious. It's noxious. It's got to be toxic. It can't be, food. We're talking about something that's noxious. That's not normally okay for the organism. In small amounts, allows it to develop a better response to it. It reminds me of homeopathy. In homeopathy, you take a plant that would make you vomit if you ate it, but you take and you get small amounts of it, and you put it in a certain amount of water, and then you succuss it 10 times, and then take out a drop of that and put that in another one of water and succuss it 10 times, take out a drop of that. And you wind up with really nothing there except the energy of it. And that will prevent you from vomiting. Okay, so it's very interesting. So hormesis is pretty much the same thing, but it's used in the field of toxicology. It's actually been figured out how hormesis works. It's a natural process anyway, because our body makes like glutamate. A little bit of glutamate in the brain teaches the brain how to be strong and resilient and adaptive. Too much will kill the brain cells, right? I mean, this is a normal part of growing up. But anyway, so they have figured out what are the chemical mediators of hormesis, right? It turns out it produces proteins that such as ion channels, kinases, deacetylases, transcription factors that translate genes and stuff like that. So it's actually a process that we have. That's how we develop, and that's how the immune system develops, right? It gets exposed to something and it learns in small amounts, and it learns how to develop a response to it. All right. So now these hormetic or hormesis or hormetic stress resistance proteins we really well know them, like the heat shock proteins, which we like to harness with fever and with total body hypothermia. Antioxidant enzymes, superoxide dismutase, catalase, all right, glutathione peroxidase, yeah, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor. There's a lot of them, right, that are part of the hormetic response. Okay, now, so when you activate these kinases and transcription factors, you result in an increased production of them. You kind of upregulate them, so you get this protective. Now it's ready, so if it gets a larger amount, it can deal with it. All right? So it's also called, what was the word they called for it? Preconditioning. It's a preconditioning. In other words, it's getting you ready to take on a bigger. All right. So, for example, if we look at sulforaphane and curcumin and all, what they do, one of the things they do, especially the cruciferous vegetables, which produce sulforaphane, it actually upregulates phase 2 detoxification of the liver. And if you can do that, you're going to be, you're in great, fantastic shape. I mean, so now, so here, the thing is this. Here's something, the study I was reading that says compelling evidence from epidemiological studies suggests the beneficial role of dietary phytochemicals in protecting against chronic disorders such as CFCs, inflammatory, and cardiovascular. How? Because the dietary phytochemicals, and they also benefit the nervous system, when consumed regularly, and they can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So, one general mechanism in the action of phytochemicals that is emerging from recent studies is that they activate adaptive cellular stress response pathways, which is hormesis. So now there are no studies that show, you can find any study that shows that eating animals is going to produce a hormetic response. Now, the other thing I need to correct with you, please listen to this. You cannot get your glucose down to 0 because you would be dead. Do you want to know what the most ketogenic diet in the world is? Water. And it not only is it have no glucose, it has no glutamine. In fact, it's probably the only thing you can eat that doesn't have glutamine. Eat, drink. So anyway, after 30 days and 40 days and 41 days, when I do a finger stick on a person who's fasting on water, and I know that because they live here with us, their blood sugar is normal. Their glucose is normal. So not eating anything results in a normal glucose. Meaning what? Meaning that the body will make it because it needs it. You will have glucose. What else will you have? Glutamine. Why? Glutamine is a non-essential amino acid, meaning we make it. So we're going to have enough glutamine and we're going to have enough glucose. In fact, glutamine is the most abundant amino acid in our bodies. And glutamine is also the primary fuel source for our lymphocytes, which are going to kill the CFCs. Are you sure you want to eliminate glutamine? Are you sure you want to block glutamine's ability to metabolize? No, you don't. Glutamine is also the primary fuel source for the enterocytes, which are the cells that line the small intestines, which are responsible for your digestion and absorption, assimilation of the nutrients that you have ingested. They need fuel, and that fuel is glutamine. Yeah, so you want to get rid of that? No, you don't. But keep in mind, too, that glutamine and glucose are not only sources of fuel, they produce a material for biosynthesis. So we make cholesterol from glucose. Cholesterol is when the glucose comes into the cell, goes through, a glycolytic process, turns out to be pyruvate, and pyruvate gets into the cell and turns into acetyl-CoA, which, by the way, is helped by alpha-lipoic acid. And once it becomes acetyl-CoA, it can't go back. You get two of them together, and you've got the backbone for cholesterol. But cholesterol's bad. No, it's not bad. Remember, everything you learned from them is the opposite of the truth. Cholesterol is absolutely necessary for the fluidity and shape of our cells. That's how they work. They also function to protect ourselves from the cell membranes from being oxidized. It's also necessary to make bile, vitamin D, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, aldosterone. And I said vitamin D, right? So in other words, no cholesterol, it's over. You'll never have a baby, you'll die. Okay, so it's not bad. And we make it. What we don't need to do, because it's not a vitamin, we don't need to eat it. We make it. Just like dogs don't need to take vitamin C. Why? Because they make it. Same with elephants, horses, crocodiles, frogs, guppies. They don't need to eat it. And cholesterol, we make it. We don't need to eat it. Cholesterol is only found in the cell membranes of animals, not plants. Plants don't have cell membranes, they have cell walls. So if you get cholesterol, it's because you're eating an animal, a corpse. All right, so I'm trying to clear up a few of the misunderstandings from your statements there. So, in other words, you want to eat vegetables. You're going to get very little carbs, and you need carbs anyway. No carbs, and you're not getting out of bed. Oh, by the way, glutamine again is not just a fuel. It can go into the Krebs cycle. But what else is it? It provides the nitrogen to make other amino acids and to make nucleic acids, genetic material. You cannot do without these. You got to understand that. I don't understand how Dr. Thomas Seyfried doesn't, because he's a very bright man. I have the utmost respect for him. Go away. Oh my God, what is this? Yay, I did it. Okay, so now, all right, so Anouk, I hope I answered all your questions. The supplements you need to take are not probably, unless you're out in the sun all day and you're living in a nice, warm area that has the right latitude, so you have the right intensity, and you're just wearing like shorts and get a sun exposure, then you don't need vitamin D. But otherwise, you need it, and you want to keep your level up to about 100 in your blood. You still need vitamin C. You got to be sipping it all day long because you can only absorb 200 milligrams at a time, and you need to be getting your physiological requirements for vitamin C met. We're going to do a vitamin C webinar. When you've seen this and you know how much you understand what vitamin C does, you'll never go another day without making sure you've gotten enough. By the way, an interesting and bizarre fact is, all right, so you can understand that we noticed that there's not a population in the world. This is from the American Cancer Society. There's not a population in the world with a high rate of colon CFCs that does not also have a high intake of animal corpses. So, and you say, well, I kind of get that because humans were not designed. We don't have the right physiology for it. If you ever think that we are omnivores, okay, if you think now I admit we are omnivores, but not by design, by perversion. Yeah. We're also alcoholics by perversion, not designed to be an alcoholic. We're also crackheads by perversion. We're designed to be a crackhead. I mean, yeah, okay. Now, look up what an omnivore is. You'll find that omnivores have snouts. The jaws move vertically. They've got claws, and they can kill, and they will kill. Or they'll eat what they can find. Okay, now, if you think that you are an omnivore, then imagine yourself in a jungle or a deep forest. There's no way out. And you're naked. And you're hungry. What are you going to eat? What are you equipped by God, by nature to eat? Don't answer. Think about it. Okay. Now ask that same question to a cat. We don't ask the cat, put the cat in the position to a dog, to a raccoon, to a bear. Just put them in that position. You're going to see they're going to get whatever they can. Okay. Ask that question to an anteater. What's an anteater going to do? Okay. Each creature was designed anatomically and physiologically to eat what it's going to eat, and their instincts pushed in that direction. Our problem is we lost our instincts. All right, so now let's get on. I'm sorry I spent so much time on that, but I was just such a loaded question. It's crazy, but good question. I'm glad you brought the term hormesis up for everyone. Okay, so let's look at the questions here. This is from Dana. Are we running out of time yet? Oh no, wow, we're doing great. Can they answer you? Huh? Am I? Hey, Joanna. Interesting. A whole food vegan for 30 years and your cholesterol is high. Because remember, cholesterol will go up as needed because it's an antioxidant. It does many, many things. So it's going up. It's being produced as needed. Now, what is when we're out of balance is when we have what do you call it? Oxidized LDL. So oxidized LDL is not what we want. All right, and that's what unfortunately is not measured. None of that stuff is ever measured. You know, they don't measure. They just measure total cholesterol and then LDL and all that, and then and the studies show that yes, if you take this statin, yes, indeed, your cholesterol will go down. Yes, indeed, but the study doesn't show if you take the statin, will you have a better quality of life or will you live longer? It doesn't look at that stuff. One moment, please. I don't need that light anymore. I didn't need that light anymore. Is it too dark? No. Okay. What is a normal glucose? You mean healthy glucose? A healthy glucose is anywhere from 60 to 80. I mean, it is a fasting glucose, After you've eaten, it's going to go up, of course. Okay, I can't. Okay. So here's a question, Dana. Major staph infection. I've been recovering beautifully on my CFC journey and return to health. But recently I had a port surgically placed. You all know what a port is, right? After a few weeks, it became heavily infected, and I had to be admitted to the hospital after testing positive for a full-on staph blood infection. The port was ultimately removed surgically, even though they waited almost 3 days to do it. The protocol for staph is to inject heavy IV antibiotics into my PIC line 3 times a day for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I'm very sick daily because of the heavy antibiotics flowing through me. Here's my question. Is there any other known protocol where I could have avoided this massive antibiotic onslaught, or any other way to clear this blood infection? I tend to think this is the only way to do it. However, as you know, there's massive damage done to the body by the use of heavy antibiotics. I'm trying to mitigate damages by keeping up my diet and fasting practices. And massive liposomal vitamin C orally. And colonics 3 times a week. Yay. I'm also taking powerful probiotics. Anyway, to at least to try to help my system in some way. I feel that the best way to help myself right now is to try to detoxify as much as possible, do colonics, and keep my health and eating practices. First, is there a non-toxic option for the staph infection rather than heavy IV antibiotics? Second, what else can I do to minimize the damage being done by these heavy drugs? All right, Dana. Now, you had a port placed, and just within a few weeks, you had it got infected. So I'm, that's very unusual. I mean, ports can get infected usually later on, but okay. What are we calling an infection? We're saying that a particular microorganism has become dominant, and it's starting to cause problems. It's starting to destroy the body in different ways, right? So now staph, there's different species of staph. There's staph epidermidis, which is on your skin, staph aureus. There's many kinds of staph. And now if the port was infected and you could see it and it had pus or it was red and inflamed, that's one thing. Okay, so then you know it's a local dermatological type of infection. I'll use that word for now. Just use that word for now. Now, other ways that people have noticed that they have an infected port is when every time they get an IV of anything, vitamin C or whatever it is, they get shaking, chills, and fever. Because by putting that in and going through the port, it's causing bacteria or some microorganism to be disseminated. That's one way they can know. So the way you test for that is first of all, you can take aerobic and anaerobic sample out of the port and anaerobic and aerobic out of one of your arms. So a peripheral and a port. You do that and you compare them and you see, are they both? Do you have bacteria in the blood in both of them, or just this one? Or anyway, that helps you make a decision. So if you had staph and you were really sick, and it sounds like you were, and they finally took out the port, and I guess they replaced it with a PIC line, and they were giving you IV antibiotics because that's all they know how to do. And I don't know how sick you were, but there is a time that you have to give. There are certain times where you have to give IV antibiotics. However, are there other things you can do? And there are, absolutely. There is one colloidal silver product and only one. I mean, there are a lot of companies that make it, and some people make it at home, in the back room or in the garage or something, of colloidal silver. Because we know that silver is antimicrobial, right? In the ancient days, they would keep milk in a silver bowl or chalice, and it wouldn't spoil. They're even now, I was very happy to learn, using silver on the tips, on the ends of catheters that are indwelling catheters in people, which makes a lot of sense. She was done a long time ago. But anyway, so there's one company called Argentin 23, and it's made by a company called Natural Immunogenics, and they are the only company that produces it, colloidal silver, with studies and the science behind it to prove that what they're saying is true. Now, the reason they call it Argentin 23 is because each colloid is only 23 parts per million of silver. So now I've looked in the store and I've seen them up to 800, 600, 900, and stuff like that. Okay, whatever the colloid is, in other words, the silver is being kept in almost in a little bubble, and there's a bunch of bubbles around. Well, if those colloids are not strong, the bubbles, the two of them will come together and merge, and you'll wind up with really large areas with a lot of silver, and that can result in something called agoria, which is you get a blue head, and it never goes away. So you don't want that. But the beautiful thing about this here is that the guy that made Argentin 23 and started a company called Natural Immunogenics was a man by the name of Steve Quinto, genius. He passed away, a very good, dear, wonderful man, friend of mine. He and his wife, which is wonderful, yeah. So anyway, their children are now, have been managing the company for a long time, and it's the highest quality. But the thing I like about it is 23 parts per million, and you can give it IV. They can't say that, and because of the Fraud and Death Association, they don't like that kind of stuff. They don't want you to say those things, so you don't say it. But it's been used IV, and you got to be careful because you can't add it to anything, like not even water, because it's going to react. Okay, so you got to just drip it in slowly by itself. The problem is this: it's extremely hypoosmolar. What does that mean? Okay, what that means is osmolality is the, how do you explain it? It's the pressure within a liquid that keeps that liquid it's the pressure within a liquid. Okay, so let me illustrate that. So for example, things that increase osmolality, increase pressure, are salt, albumin. Of course, our body makes albumin, but salt, right? So if I have a lot of salt in this liquid, in this water, and I have a little bit of salt in this water, but they have the same amount of water, and I put them together and I join them by a little tube, what'll happen is they'll both equilibrate until they both have the same amount of salt. In other words, water will run into the salt, the concentration of salt pulls. That's the pressure. It pulls the water. So anyway, silver is extremely hypoosmolar, which means it would pull everything out of the cells, and it'd be dangerous if you put it in. It's just like putting pure water, sterile water into your IV. You'd die, because what happens is all your red blood cells would burst and stuff like that. So anyway, you got to put that. The thing about the colloidal silver, the Argentin 23, is it's got to be done by specific protocol, very slowly over time. You can also drink it. There's another way. It's intravenous allicin. Allicin is the active ingredient in garlic, onions. Okay, we used to be able to buy it from China back before all this madness was going on, back in the early 2000s and stuff. We used to be able to get it from there. And it was good. I mean, the room smelled like garlic, but we could use that instead of antibiotics. But nowadays, I don't know. One of the things you could definitely do is intravenous, of high dose vitamin C, and also ozone. Ozone extremely microbial-cidal. And if you did something like ozone dialysis with either a 10-pass machine or with an EBU, you could, more than likely do that. The other thing you could have done, and you could have or could have experienced, was if somebody had a DFPP, a double filtration plasmapheresis, they could sort of like filter out your blood. So you could do it. There's several things you could have done. Yeah. However, you didn't, and here's where you are, and you did it, and you're alive, and you're okay, and you're doing all the right things. You're doing perfect. You're absolutely perfect. 3 colonics a week. You're keeping up eating healthy, taking lots of vitamin C, liposomal. Yeah, and you're taking probiotics, but just remember, it's the food that you eat. The food that you eat is the food that they eat. And so, if you want to raise healthy ones, the microorganisms that contribute to a really healthy gut biome, then eat uncooked plant food, and that's what you'll. So you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. Don't worry about it. And I would, once they feel that the infection is cleared, I would get a new port put on the other side. And also, I would make sure. Now, I hope that the nurses that you're working with have a specific protocol for putting in the Huber needle, accessing a port. It's very. I mean, they have to wear. They should wear a mask and gloves, and they should have you wear a mask, and they should put on. They usually put on betadine. You can use Lugols, but they put on betadine, and so that betadine, which is iodine, and they're wearing gloves and yeah. So if the procedure of accessing you was not done in a sterile manner, they could have introduced some staph epidermidis, which is on your skin. Either that or some of the substances you got in IVs were not clean or something like that. Listen. And then fundamental and obvious to all of this is that the stronger your immune system is, the less likely any of these imbalances can take place where one microorganism becomes dominant. Okay. So let's go to the next one. Where are we? Yes, you can do it. Carlisa. Can't see your name too well. Yes, you can do a parasite cleanse while on chemo, but you don't have to be taking chemo. At least not high dose, not maximum tolerated. Not only you don't have to, you shouldn't. You should do. You've got to find someone who can help you. Okay. I don't know your situation, so I can't really comment more. But okay. So now, let's see the next question. Next question is by Jennifer, and she says, "I have receding gums. It's been a long problem with my gums. Always bleed. What can I do to help? Will oil pulling help, or is there something else?" Okay. So, okay. So, if you've got bleeding gums, right, that means that there is inflammation. All right. Or Excuse me, let me just explain to somebody. Okay, let's get the sushi. Sorry about that, you guys. Um, but amazing timing. Can you imagine? Do you know who that was? No, you don't. But I'll tell you. It was what do you call it? It was Dr. Emma. Isn't that amazing? Amazing, right? But anyway, so Dr. Emma, the best biological dentist in the world. I know she doesn't like me to say that, and maybe I shouldn't, but can't help it. Come on. Anyway, so receding gums means receding bones too. All right, and what it means is that there is a dysbiosis, and so what we have to do is figure out what's going on before we can figure out how to deal with it. All right. So, um, I'm trying to find something here that I can show you. This is actually a question that would be better answered by Dr. Emma, and I wish I could. I should do these lives with her. But anyway, so anyway, so you've got these receding gums. The reason they're receding is because they're inflamed. All right, they'll probably bleed easily too, and you have receding bone as well. Okay, so the question, so what's happening is why? If we got to know why and what's happening, so we can deal with it specifically. But like a systemic acidity from lifestyle, whatever the foods you're eating are acid producing. Okay, you've got a dysbiosis in your mouth, which means you have a dysbiosis in your gut. Okay, now the only thing, because that remember, think about it, the mouth is contiguous with the gut, but we have a whole different kinds. We have many more species in our gut than we do in our mouth, and different. Some, I mean, a lot the same. A lot are the same, but some are not. So what separates? What is the like physical barrier that between the oral and the gut? And that is two things. One is the stomach acidity, and bile salts. Okay. The other thing that could be the other things that could be contributing to this are hormones. Stress, of course, is going to do it because, as you know, stress sets up the whole sympathetic pathway, and like we said with lifestyle, nutrient deficiencies, yeah. And it could even be airway problems and bite problems. Occlusion, dental occlusion. All right. So in order to remedy this, we need to really know what's going on. Now, the question about oil pulling is good for everyone, and everyone should do that. Like you wake up in the morning, you can rinse your mouth out. You can either brush them then or just put in the oil, like organic, extra virgin organic coconut oil. um, and just do that for 20 minutes. Go, make tea and, water the plants or wake up the kids or, whatever. Go for a walk, whatever you do, or take a shower, all that. And then when you're done, spit it in the trash. Don't spit it in the drain because it'll eventually clog it up. Don't swallow it. And then brush, rinse and brush. But that's very good. You don't do oil pulling if you have any metal in your mouth because you don't want to do that. Okay. So if you have any amalgams or anything like that, do not do the oil pulling until those are done. But yes, that will absolutely help. The other thing is hydrogen peroxide, 3%, 6%. Gargle, let it get up in there. Really, really good peroxide. So, but anyway, one of the reasons that this is a very good question is that, and the reason I'm glad you're bringing it up is because it is, for some reason it's unknown, that the mouth is part of the body. I mean, I don't know how this happened. It's as bizarre as anything. It's as bizarre as chemtrails. I mean, it's bizarre. The mouth is part of the body, right? And the teeth. I mean, the teeth are the only non-shedding structures in the body. What I mean by that, like all other epithelial surfaces are shedding. They have a turnover, like the gut, the lining of the gut, and all that every 3 days. And skin, every 6 weeks. Skin. Everything's shedding, and except the teeth. And they've got 10 to the 13th number of microorganisms on them. All right. Now, anyway, so there's a few of them. Now, the microorganisms that are in here can directly affect systemic health. In fact, we now know that 80 to 90% of all, maybe it's 100%. Yeah, it is. All systemic illnesses are either reflected in the mouth or were caused by the mouth, something in the mouth. All right. So now, anyway, there's all kinds, but there's like three main bacteria that now these guys, what's special about these guys is that they seem to be able to deal with acidity. That's why they can get down into, they're found both down in the system and up in the mouth. But they can deal with acidity. So this acid is not going to kill them in the bile, so they're going to get through. Okay. So porphyromanos, a weird word, gingivalis. Okay. Porphyromanos or manus, porphyromanos. Okay. Just call it P. gingivalis. Actinobacillus. And Treponema denticola, okay? And then, of course, there's Tannerellea, okay? Anyway, so P. gingivalis, T. denticola, and T. forsythia, okay? These three guys or girls, all right. I got to ask them what pronouns they prefer. I never did ask. I was pretty, what do you call it? I was pretty offensive of me not to find out what pronouns they go by. But anyway, but these little group, they hang out together. They're all gram negative anaerobes, and they form what is called the red complex because they're gram negative, um, and they produce a biofilm, in other words, that protects them, and that's in the plaque. And that biofilm also has other commensal bacteria, which are bacteria that we do have they're in us, but they don't harm us. And so there's a lot of in there, but it's those interactions between them and that can cause problems. So what these organs, what they do, and they this biofilm they make that which is uh, a very strong dental plaque. Okay, um, they produce leukotoxins, where they actually can kill or disable the neutrophils, which are on the scene, right? But they also get natural killer cells, macrophages as well, right? So that's what with these leukotoxins that they produce, right? Um, they're found to be associated directly with cardiovascular problems, such as heart attacks, directly with, especially the P. gingivalis, they were directly with colon CFCs. Yeah, directly. And in fact, we now know that if we go through it, we go through any any CFC, whether it's lung, gastric, pancreatic, breast, right? They all seem to have um, the are associated with certain microorganisms. Really, it's become that what do you call it? It's that well defined, which is kind of weird because that means that I'm sorry, the fusiform nucleatum is the one that goes to the colon, right? Right. Okay. Um, anyway, uh, yeah, the Fusobacterium nucleatum is the one that goes to the colon and actually directly will result in colon CFCs. Yeah. Okay. Now, uh, and there's actually two types of them, but it's the second type that actually they now have nailed it. They know who it is. They know which one it is. All right. We see the same thing with lung CFCs. Uh, and again, it's the same three or four bad actors, right? Same with liver, which is hepatocellular. We see it. We see it in gastric CFCs. Now, by the way, we've been known for a long time that Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori, does the same thing, right? It produces chemicals that that disable the immune system. It also causes cells to ferment, basically, right? That's what it does. H. pylori. Okay, and obviously H. pylori can deal with acid. Yeah, and then also we're seeing it in the pancreas. We're seeing it anywhere in the GI tract, but uh, and what's interesting is they're even able to they're even able to look at biomarkers from these microorganisms to determine whether or not your pancreatic CFC is getting worse or it's really getting down to that. So microorganisms are definitely involved. So what do we need to do? Not kill them, and that's what they do. The the allopathic way of doing it is let's kill them. Well, they're going to be there anyway because that's where they live, but they're in the wrong balance. They should not be in a dominant role. They should be lower because they do have a function. So in other words, what's happened is there's been a dysbiosis. There's an out of balance because all of these organisms are there to produce for specific functions. When the balance gets off is when we start to see our bodies in trouble and needing to compensate, and that's when we think that we have what is well known as a disease, right? So um, what we need to do is really restore that balance. Now, again, this comes down to cleansing, which means doing a juice cleanse, just juice for 3 weeks. Don't eat solid food. Drink 3 to 4 quarts or liters a day, fresh juice. Make it delicious so that you love it and look forward to it. Get at least 2 colonics a week. Go to bed early. Make sure you go to a biological dentist and make sure you don't have any cavitations or anything that needs to be remedied. Don't let them start chipping away at your gums or anything like that. Okay, because that's not the thing to do. The thing to do is restore your healthy biome. Okay, and lymphatic work. You do all the things to restore, and I start eating really good human food. All right. By doing that, your gut biome will be restored, and so will your oral biome. All right. So, and just as a reminder, your gut biome and your oral biome are indicators of overall health. That's really important to keep in mind. And so, if you have a gingivitis of any kind, that means your overall health is not okay. It's not balanced. Okay. So we have to, keep that in mind. It's so we have to restore the balance. And of course, the oral hygiene is very, very important. But probiotics, sleeping early, doing a long cleanse, colon hydrotherapy, lymphatic work, movement, exercise throughout the day. All these things are essential, really, and eliminating stress. Learn how to stimulate your vagus nerve, and you can do that with humming, because the first 2 branches of the vagus nerve, which is parasympathetic, go to the larynx. And if you don't have some weird problem with Sanskrit, and you shouldn't, it's just another language, then you can use the most beautiful word, Om. And Om is actually A-U-M. Because if you study Sanskrit, you'll learn that the first sound that any baby can make anywhere is ah, ah. And then as we grow and our muscles change and our abilities with and it finally, so and so keep in mind that in are all the possible, because your mouth has gone through every possible movement. It's contained all words. That's one of the special things about it. Remember, the meaning of the word is irrelevant. There's no real meaning. The meaning that you'll get is an experiential meaning when you're in that place. It's a vibrational place. But anyway, humming, for those of you who are scientifically oriented, it's the first 2 branches off the vagus nerve are directly innervate the larynx, so therefore humming will stimulate vagus. Yeah. And there's other things that do that too. So you want to learn how to stimulate your vagal nerve throughout the day to get out of this sympathetic overdrive. One way is to sit down quietly with an eye mask and just 2 minutes, 5 times a day, 2 minutes, just close your eyes and very, very, very intimately listen with all your heart and soul to your breathing. And slowing your breathing and listening to it will take you to that place also. You got to get to that place, because believe me, whatever else you're doing, if you're inside, it's going to undo it all. All right. So your question was a very good question. That should tell you that you've got some imbalances and you got to get back to being balanced. We got to look at your hormones, Jennifer. I'm not sure how old you are or anything. I'm not sure if you're still menstruating or not, or or all that, but you got to check out your hormones. That's important. You're having normal periods, or if you're having periods. I don't really know your situation, but one thing you can all do when you're looking at it, whether you're man or woman, but even women, I mean, women, is woman, if your periods are regular, that's a good sign of balance. And they're not real heavy or just too light. And the other thing is, do you still have a libido? Do you have that kind of energy in you? Now, some people say I've never had it, and yeah, I get that. Some people have never had it, and I'm sure there it was an out of balance, because that's when we're balanced, we have libido. It's one of our energies. But the reason I think that's important to ask yourself is because if you say, well, yeah, I do, but it's not quite what it was before, you know, um, because that's one of the indications. As long as it's not something problem with your partner or marriage, or if it's not there, if it's not stemming from there, then it could be that it's your hormones are imbalanced. Because in a balanced hormone, you should have that. And just because you're getting older doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your hormones balanced at a young age. At 40, 40 is young. Believe it or not, you want to be around 40. Yeah. And so we use biologically identical hormones to keep everything balanced, not over, but balanced at that point. Right. hmm So, but I mean, the reason libido is like testosterone, which we think of as libido. Well, it's got more receptors for the heart and the brain and the muscles than the genitals. So that if the genitals are not being or there's nothing there, then that means that the rest, the heart and brain and muscles aren't getting what they need. We know that. So it's kind of like a dipstick, see if you have enough oil. So anyway, that's a very important thing to do. Um, and you got to go to someone who really knows about biologically identical hormones. Okay. Now, here's a question. Let's go. Wait. Let's go down to. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Here. Yeah. Oh, okay. This is Barbara. Vulva cancer that keeps growing back. Please help. Barbara. You know, most of vulval vulvular cancers are. Yeah, and everyone knows what the vulva is. It's the external genitalia on a female. Includes the labia majora and minora, right? And the clitoris and that whole area in there. And so, any part of it could have a CFC. So could have CFCs. 95% of them are squamous cell, which means it's just the kind of cells that are here, flat cells. Very few other kinds. And a lot of times that seems to be related to, not always, but or not, and we don't causative, we don't know, is HPV and all that. So I don't know what's going on with you at all, but it keeps growing back. That means you're cutting it out, or what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing, and I'd love to talk to you, because have you checked your mouth? Have you done all the things we've been talking about? So, Barbara, write to Oasis Healing Internet, Oasis Healing. What are we? Asia. Write to them. They have I don't know what they have. Info at, hello at, whatever. Oasis Healing Asia, and tell them that you'd like to. Tell them that I said I'll talk that'd be happy to talk to you. Okay, so I just want to find out what's going on with you so I can push you in the right direction. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go down here too, because I know I've already overstepped my limit. Okay, this is from Facebook, Carol. First of all, I follow up before the newest question. I've followed the green juice and a predominantly plant-based protocol as I am on heart medication. My lung thing has reduced from 4.9 to 3.4 centimeters. It is not reduced in depth or width. My teeth tested fine, quite a process. New question, Manuka honey as part of your protocol. All right, well, Carol, so green juicing, you'd hope you did a long 3-6 week cleanse or something. Predominantly plant-based means not. And I don't know what the word based means. I just, people say that, but when I think based, it means things you could have other things as well, but it's basically, so a plant, so you're not on a plant whole food, you're not on a completely plant diet. So what else are you eating? And are you stopping eating 4 hours before sleep? Are you eating in a certain window? So I don't know all the things that you've done. And I don't know what's going on. So I'd love to answer this question, but do I know anything about Manuka honey? Yeah. Your lung thing. I really need more information, but Manuka honey it's fantastic. I mean, there are many honeys that are, and they're really good locally on, topically on things, on lesion. All right, hey, and then John, the next question from John, that you said you've been trying, you have CFCs and you listen regularly. I've been tempted to implement the raw vegan diet. However, it turns out you have an oral allergy syndrome. I love that one. They made that up. They have great names, and have burning and tingling in my mouth and throat when I drink juiced leafy greens. All right, well, John, you got to join this group. We got to talk about these things, okay? Because there's so many questions I have for you and you have for me. And do I have any advice? Yeah, wheatgrass causes you horrible reaction. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know what is causing the reaction. I know you clearly have a dysbiosis in your mouth and your gut, so that's got to be worked on. So we have to figure out. We have to work on that. So there's a lot of things we need to do, John. So you got to get in my group, and we've got to figure this out because believe me, you were designed to eat that. It's like saying I'm allergic to oxygen or something. Okay, so here's Genius saying, what can I do to get rid of my candida? My doctor put me on fluconazole. So if that's not working, that means that, remember, candida is one particular species of funguses, yeast that we need in our body. But when they become overgrowth, that's because the other guys aren't there. If you think of the body, especially inside, having 100 trillion parking spaces, if someone leaves, other guys are going to move in. All right, so we got to put the other guys back. We can't just kill. We got to put them back, because if we kill using some sort of specific weapon against one group, another group that we may not necessarily be in our best interest might move in as well. So you want to restore a good balance. So we need to work on your gut, and that's what you eat and how well you eliminate. How your colon is clean and things like that. Wow, we got so much to talk about, you guys. I can't wait till we start these groups. Wow. Oh, wow, Leslie, I want to answer. Oh my God. Where are we? Oh my God, it's already 9:15. Oh, you guys. What? And this is the Instagram. Lymphoma with ongoing pleural effusions. Too wet to do talc procedure. How do I stop this? There's another procedure they can use with doxycycline. Uh, uh, but we've got to do, I don't know your situation, Hope, but we've got to do everything. Your mouth, you got to do everything. We can't just focus on that there. It's not, it exists in a context. Okay. Um, my 8-year-old daughter's CA 19.9 is confirmed 95. Why are you checking her? Why were you checking an 8-year-old's CA 19-9? I wish I could talk to all you. I wish this was live so we could talk. Is there any hope for stage 4 liver CFC? Yes. Not hope. There's a way out. Absolutely. I know the biological laws of Dr. Hammer? Yes, 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 yes. I'm sorry I can't. We're at the end here. Can you speak about sclerosis of the perineum? Ooh, yeah. I'd like to talk to you, Kathleen, and find out how, because that sounds. Because sclerosis is a chronic inflammatory, the consequence of the chronic inflammatory insult. Um, it's like a scarring. Uh, hmm. Yeah. Sclerosis anywhere would respond to the same things, and that is everything we do, cleansing, oral, but alpha lipoic acid and B vitamins, IV, vitamin C. There's ways of getting rid of sclerosis of the liver and cirrhosis of the liver. And on the perineum, you can use actually topical agents such as aloe, and so we really need to talk. My gosh. Mm. All right, you guys. My gosh. Wow. There's so much out there, and I'll never get to it all. But geez. So I mean, these groups are going to make it much easier because right now there's like way too much here. All that. Anyway, and I'll see you next week. Couple muck up. Okay, and thank you for joining me on my madness. But I appreciate you all being here. Bye bye. Where are we here? There we are. Okay.